It's Friday night and you want to have pizza, but you don't want to break the bank. So we're going to make it at home. It is most Fridays are pizza night at our house. And so I'm going to share with you my pizza crust recipe, lest you think that learning to cook is something that you succeed at and you don't ever make mistakes. That's not true. I started to record this recipe a couple of weeks ago when it was pizza night, and I did the pizza recipe wrong. So I'm going to correct that today, give you the right information, and hopefully this is going to work. It is also football season, so I am making a double batch of the pizza crust so that I can make one pizza, and I'm going to take the other half of the crust, put it away, the dough for the crust. I'm going to put that away in the refrigerator overnight, pull it out tomorrow, and I'm going to make some pretzel bites from that dough. Hey friends, welcome back to the Savvy Savor kitchen. I am Hope, and I am ready to share with you some of the things that I wish that I had known when I was first learning to cook, or at any point in time over the past 30 years. That I'm getting started earlier in the day. I'm also going to share with you the marinara sauce that I use for my pizza sauce. And at the end of the video, we are going to go over what this actually costs to make. Okay, we're going to start off with the wet portion of this recipe. So in a 2-cup Pyrex measuring cup, you don't have to use Pyrex, but it's just what I use. This pizza crust uses yeast, and I have active dry yeast. So there's a difference between active dry yeast and instant yeast. So I just want to make sure that you knew that that's what I'm using. You can definitely use instant, but active dry is what I'm using in this recipe. So I'm going to add to my warm water a tablespoon of active dry yeast. Now, to get this the right temperature, I used to always get it too warm. And if you get it too warm, you're going to kill the yeast. So you don't want to do that. You want it to be about the temperature of what you would give your baby a bath in. So think about that as the judgment. I just use tap water and I just run it to the point where it's just comfortably warm. Then to my tablespoon of active dry yeast, I'm going to add a sweetener. I'm using molasses. I'm just going to put in about a teaspoon into this, and this is going to serve as feeding the yeast. You don't have to use molasses. It just happens to be what I have in my kitchen. It's a sweetener that I don't use very often, so I'm kind of using it up in a lot of my yeast recipes. And you can also use just, a tablespoon of sugar, a little bit of honey, whatever sweetener you want to use. You could also do something like monk fruit or something like that. And you don't necessarily have to put this in there, but it is just going to help feed that yeast and get it bubbling up. So we're going to let this bubble up a little bit, get ready for to go into the flour mixture. And in the meantime, I am going to add a little bit of salt. I have 4 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour, in my mixing bowl. And I'm going to add to that a teaspoon of sugar, a teaspoon of salt. Not quite. Okay. And then you can use a whisk. I'm just using the whisk that goes with my stand mixer. But I just want to spread that salt around so that when I add the wet mixture to the dough in a little bit, it doesn't kill off the good stuff. So while we are waiting for the yeast liquid portion to bloom, I just wanted to share that this is all a process. Learning to cook is not something that you arrive at and never need to improve. And if I am any example of someone who has learned a lot, but clearly has a whole lot more to learn. And I mean, that's the exciting thing about cooking and anything that you can be passionate about is that you grow over time. And there's always something else new to do and ways to improve. So I am definitely continuing to improve in all the things that I do on a daily basis. I have not yet arrived. And I don't pretend to be a professional, but I definitely know a lot more than I did when I was 25. So hopefully, what I share in this kitchen will help you, whether you're 25 or 55. Not everyone came from a home where cooking from scratch was something that you did, or just cooking at home in general. Like I shared before, we were a very busy family with 4 kids going in completely different directions that I don't know how my mom kept track of when to pick up who and where and at what time on a daily basis because we were in all sorts of extracurricular activities. I'm very thankful for all the sacrifices that she made for us, but I missed out on learning to cook from scratch because it was something that my grandmother did, but it was something that my mom's generation did not really have to do because there were so many conveniences available, and they took advantage of it, and they were smart to do that. But now we know that a lot of those convenience foods did some not great things to our bodies, and we are continuing to do that to our kids' bodies today. So, as well as our own. So, we're just trying to do a little better and continue to improve on the things that we know now. So, as I was saying, learning to cook is just a something that you have to do in stages. There's an Arabic term that we learned years ago, shway shway, or in French, pas en pas, like step by step. We learn to do things just a little bit at a time. As long as we're approaching everything that we do in life as progress is so much more important than the speed at which you get there. So let's just focus on enjoying the idea that we're improving and the fruits of our labor and not be so concerned about everything being perfect. Just enjoy the process of cooking together, then it makes it all worth it. Our wet mixture has started to bloom. As you can see, there's a little bit of there's bubbles on the top, and we're going to add this into the dry mixture, and I'm just going to mix that by hand. We're just going to mix this till it starts to come together and then finish bringing it together by mixing it by hand. You can continue to do all the mixing without a stand mixer. You do not need to go out and buy a KitchenAid mixer to make pizza crust. But if you find that baking is something that you enjoy, then I've come to realize that a stand mixer is a wonderful thing to have in the kitchen. I didn't have one for a very, very long time because I was not a baker. But I have learned to enjoy it a lot more now that I don't have a full-time job outside of the home. I am able to enjoy baking more things and have enjoyed bread making and pizza dough making a whole lot more. Now it starts to get a little, this is called shaggy looking. So when your dough reaches that point, it's a good time to transition to mixing it by hand. And that's what I'm doing here. I just want to bring all of these pieces together. You definitely can hop in there with both hands if you'd like. I will say that part of the reason why I did not start baking or making more in my own kitchen from scratch is the fact that I don't like messy countertops. I don't necessarily, or I didn't, enjoy getting my hands dirty and um, messy from all of this because there's a little bit of a mess that goes into this. But I guess maybe I've just gotten better at cleaning up over time, and I I do enjoy it a whole lot more now, and it is a little bit more like therapy. I used to love to weed in the garden or around the house, and that was kind of like a prayer time for me. And baking has kind of become that way too. Okay, so you can see that this is all kind of coming together. I have basically one big lump of dough. Now you can continue, like I said, to do this, mixing it by hand. I would put both hands in and just go after it, but I'm going to move over to my stand mixer. Okay, so now you can see that the dough is nice and soft. It's like nice, warm, pillowy Play-Doh almost. And we're going to add a little olive oil to the top of that, just about a tablespoon. And I'm going to kind of just spin this around so it sort of gets on all sides, and that will keep the dough from sticking to the sides of the bowl. And then we are going to cover this with a wet kitchen towel. I'm going to take this and put it in a warm spot. In my house, that is in the microwave with the light on. Or you can also put it on top of your refrigerator. Just don't forget about it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is put together the pizza sauce. And for this, I'm just going to use a can of crushed tomatoes. This is a 28-ounce can, which is really big. It's a lot of sauce, but this is going to give us plenty of sauce for at least 2 pizzas. And in our house, we like to not only have sauce on our pizza, but we like to have a little bit of dipping sauce on the side. So this will give you sauce for 2 pizzas at least, and plenty of dipping sauce if your family likes to do that too. So to this crushed tomatoes, I am going to add almost a teaspoon of salt. It's about 3/4 of a teaspoon. I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of basil. We like lots of basil in our house. And we like lots of garlic. So almost a teaspoon of garlic to that. About a half a teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm just going to shake in a little onion powder. We have family members that are not huge fans of whole onion. And then I'm just going to mix this all up. Now, if you have family members who are not really crazy about the chunky parts of crushed tomatoes, you could also run this through your blender or put an immersion blender in here and just kind of blend up those pieces if you like it a little bit smoother. You also could use tomato sauce. I just like the way crushed tomatoes have more of a fresh feel to it than tomato sauce. But you definitely can alter that and do it in any way you want. So there's our sauce. I'm going to set it aside in the refrigerator until we're ready to use it this afternoon or evening, and it will all come together really quick. Okay, we are back. It is day 2. Obviously, it's not Friday night. We ended up eating a big late lunch and just decided to skip dinner altogether. Well, not altogether. We had popcorn last night. But today is football Saturday. If you are in SEC country, then you know that Saturdays are a really big deal. And so good food is a big part of that. So we decided we would have our pizza today. So what I ended up doing is taking the pizza crust out of the microwave after it sat and proofed. I divided it into 2 bags and just put these in the refrigerator overnight. So I'm starting off with browning some ground beef. Michael really likes to have ground beef or sausage on his pizza. So I'm going to brown this. I'm going to season it with some sausage type spices. So I'm adding in a little basil here, some salt, and a little black pepper. So now I'm going to leave that to brown and move on to the crust. So I like to start with a piece of parchment paper. This makes things a lot easier to work with, but one of the issues I run into is that parchment paper will kind of roll up, especially as you get toward the end of the roll. So one of the things that you can do to keep that from happening is to take it and just crumple it up. Then when you spread it back out, it lays flat and it's no longer an issue with it rolling up on you. Now I'm taking my dough, I'm going to dump that out, and here also is where the parchment paper is so wonderful because it's going to keep that pizza crust from sticking to your countertop and you don't have to add extra flour to the surface, which is one of the things that I really don't like about cooking from scratch is the number of times you have to put flour on a surface. If I can avoid it, I love that. So this is really stretchy and pliable, and basically I'm kind of using the weight of the dough itself to help stretch it out because as you can see, it's really wanting to spring back, but I'm going to keep working it until I get it into the shape that I want. And that's just about where I want it right there. So now I'm going to move on to adding our sauce. This is the sauce we mixed together earlier, and I'm going to add roughly, usually what I use is about 3 tablespoons. So 1, 2, 3. I like a little bit less sauce on the inside of the pizza. I'll spread this out pretty well, and it's going to leave a whole lot more for the rest of the pizza to be dipped in later. There. Not super fancy, just roughly spread out. Now I am using shredded mozzarella cheese today. I do like to shred my own occasionally, but I just happen to have a big bag of shredded mozzarella from another recipe, so I am going to take advantage of that little convenience and use that today because it's what we have. So that is roughly a cup of cheese. You can definitely go more or less. Now I prefer pepperoni on my pizza. My husband is not crazy about it, so I'm going to put the pepperoni on just half of the pizza. So I'm going to end up putting 6, 7, let's go ahead and make this 8. Then on Michael's half of the pizza, I'm going to put in that ground beef that we were seasoning earlier. And the funny thing is that the ground beef in this pizza is basically the most expensive ingredient. So you can definitely choose other toppings to save a little money. I'm going to top this off with just a little sprinkle of some Parmesan cheese and a little additional sprinkle of some basil. If you have fresh basil, this would be wonderful as well, but dried will work. Then I'm transferring this on the basket to our air fryer, and I'm going to cook it in the air fryer on the toaster oven setting. This just saves a little extra heat in the house and electricity. After 12 minutes, it is done. Take 2 on this, we are going to talk about the numbers, and we're also going to celebrate the fact that I think I have finally gotten my microphone to work on this recording. So let's get to the numbers. Now, mind you, this is for one pizza. So if you need to make double the amount that you saw me making, this is just the cost of the one pizza. So if you need 2 pizzas, you're going to double this amount. Just the ingredients that I have on hand. Flour. This is flour that I bought from Walmart, which cost $2.38 for a 5-pound bag. I used 11% of that when I figured out the number of cups, so that came to 26 cents. Yeast. Now, I buy my yeast in bulk. I get that on Amazon, and it is $8.99 for a 2-pound container, like a bag. It's vacuum sealed, and it has 50 tablespoons in it, so it really lasts you for a long time. If you made pizza once a week, it would last you almost a year. And at $8.99, I used 1 tablespoon of that, so that comes to 18 cents. Then I used a can of crushed tomatoes. I believe, I don't have the number written down right now, but I believe that was $1.52 a can. And as you saw, it made a ton of sauce. I only used about 3 tablespoons for the one pizza. We also used some for dipping. So I'm going to say be generous. We used 1/4 of that can. So that comes to about 38 cents. Then the mozzarella, for $3.78, you can get a 1 pound, I believe, 1 pound block or 1 pound of shredded mozzarella cheese. I was using shredded this time, but if you are adventurous and you really want to make it the absolute best, if you shred it yourself, it would be a little bit tastier, but sometimes convenience is worth just going ahead and using the shredded. Then I used a few slices, I think it was 8 slices of pepperoni on half of that pizza. The package of pepperoni that I purchased was $2.92 for 15 servings, and a serving is 6 slices, so this was a little bit more than that. It came to a total of 26 cents worth of pepperoni. And then the ground beef that I used a quarter of a pound. It cost $4.49 per pound, so that was $1.23. So that is the most expensive part of the whole pizza. So if you want to eliminate ground beef and only use pepperoni, or if you only want to do cheese, then you can save even more. But at those prices, with those ingredients, the exact same way that I made that, it comes to $3.04. You definitely cannot buy a frozen pizza as good as that for that amount. So if you needed two, $6, like 6.08, actually really incredible price for something that is going to be really good. And we've already eaten the pizza. I have some left over in the refrigerator, so it's good the next day. It's good cold. It's good if you warm it back up in the air fryer. So we'll keep that in mind if you have leftover pieces. So as you can see, this is a really budget-friendly but healthy version of pizza. You know exactly what all the ingredients are in it, so you can feed it to your family with peace. And it is just proof that if you just have a few staple items in your pantry and in your refrigerator, you're going to save yourself a lot of money and be able to throw it together a really simple meal. That was not a lot of ingredients. So as you are beginning this journey, or even if you've been on it for a while or you made a few attempts at starting to cook from scratch, just remember that the key is to having a good pantry. You don't have to have all the bells and whistles. You don't have to have all the tools and equipment, just some basic staples in your pantry. And if you're not sure where to start, I do have an ebook that is going to be linked below in the description. It's completely free, and it just kind of walks through some of the ingredients that you want to start with in your pantry. Now, having a from scratch pantry that is well stocked is kind of like building a wardrobe. You kind of start with the basics. You start with a pair of jeans and a couple of pairs of pants and a couple of dresses or skirts and a few tops, and you just add on to that kind of in layers. So start with the basics that are in that guide, and then build on it based on what flavor profiles your family likes. Like if you love Chinese food and you don't like Mexican, you may not want all the Mexican spices, but you may want to focus on Asian spices. I would love to continue to spend time together in the kitchen and help you out with recipes that are going to bless your family. If you have ideas or things that you're looking for, drop me a comment below. I would love to help you out by diving into it, and maybe it's something new that I haven't done either. I'm also planning to do some just basic recipes for knowing how to cook rice. That's something that I didn't know how to do. I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's just like me and did not know how to make rice, not in a boiling bag. So try that recipe out. Let me know how it turns out for you. I'd love to see a picture of it. And until the next video, may God bless you.